Ahí tienes que ver el chat.
Muy buenos días a todos ustedes. Los saludo con muchísimo gusto en esta transmisión especial que tenemos hoy, sábado 3 de enero del 2026, que nos hemos despertado con la noticia de que Estados Unidos ha cumplido aquella amenaza de definitivamente ir por Nicolás Maduro. Ya en esta mañana conocimos que la madrugada del día de ayer, alrededor de las 2 de la mañana, fuerzas militares estadounidenses entraron directamente a la recámara de Nicolás Maduro y se llevaron al dictador Maduro y a su esposa. Ambos en una aeronave militar fueron llevados directamente a los Estados Unidos, fueron llevados, aparentemente llegarán a Nueva York, donde hay una orden de enfrentar la justicia desde hace mucho tiempo por un juez allá en Nueva York. Hasta donde sabemos, el mismo lunes, dentro de 2 días, veremos a Nicolás Maduro ahí en la corte, en alguna corte federal de los Estados Unidos, enfrentando o escuchando cuáles son los cargos que se le imputan. Algo que parecía ya inminente se ha concretado el día de hoy. Evidentemente las reacciones de todo el mundo son contrapuestas. Habrá que analizar desde el punto de vista jurídico si esto que hizo Estados Unidos es legal o no. Desde el punto, siento yo que ambas partes tienen sus puntos a discutir. Estados Unidos desde hace tiempo nombró a el Cártel de los Soles como organización terrorista internacional y cuyo líder lo nombró, el líder que nombró de este cártel es Nicolás Maduro. Esto justifica, desde el punto de vista de los Estados Unidos, justifica la posibilidad de ir por un narcoterrorista hasta donde se encuentre, y en este caso, donde se encontraba fue precisamente en Venezuela y fueron por él. Hay que recordar que había una cierta cantidad muy significativa por la cabeza de Nicolás Maduro. Varias ocasiones, aquí en este mismo espacio, hablábamos sobre el presidente Donald Trump dándole la oportunidad, si así lo podemos decir, dándole la oportunidad de que se entregara, aquí tenemos el chat, que se entregara a la justicia. Al parecer le había dado la posibilidad de que tomara sus cosas y se retirara a algún país amigo. Aquí pasó, algún país amigo, y efectivamente no tomó este camino el dictador Nicolás Maduro, y el día de hoy nos levantamos con la noticia de que ya han ido por él. La reacción de este general Cabello, muy cercano a el dictador Maduro, ha sido sumamente agresiva. Ya ha anunciado que va a haber una contraofensiva. No sabemos cómo vaya a ser ese asunto. No va a ser fácil, evidentemente. En estos momentos estamos esperando la conferencia de prensa que va a dar el presidente Donald Trump. Va a hablar a la nación. Se encuentra en Mar-a-Lago, ahí en su residencia de descanso, en West Palm Beach. Desde ahí va a address the nation, va a hablar a la nación. Estaba programado para las 11 de la mañana, tiempo de Florida, que para la Ciudad de México, para los que nos están escuchando en la Ciudad de México, es a las 10 de la mañana. Hasta este momento son las 10 de la mañana con 16 minutos, tiempo de la Ciudad de México, y aún no ha salido el presidente Trump a hablar sobre este asunto. Ya lleva un retraso de unos 17 minutos, un cuarto de hora. En este momento, pues literalmente el mundo entero está esperando esta conferencia de prensa. El mundo entero está esperando ver qué es lo que dirá el presidente Donald Trump, que pues lo único que dirá, pues dará una justificación sobre la acción que tomó en contra de este dictador de Venezuela. Ahora, las imágenes impactantes, ver las imágenes de esta madrugada de bombardeos en la capital, justamente en Caracas, donde se encuentra la residencia de Nicolás Maduro, pues es un tanto impactante. Por semanas se venía diciendo que este cerco que ya tenía Venezuela por todos lados, marítimo, inclusive aéreo, muchos pues podrían decir, no, es que era puro bluff de los Estados Unidos, es que ¿qué va a hacer Donald Trump? Es que ya se tardó. Bueno, pues llegó ese día y hoy 3 de enero del 2026, estamos presenciando algo que ya va a ser escrito en la historia. Si ustedes recordarán, hace 36 años exactamente, hubo una acción similar en Panamá, donde Estados Unidos ingresó a Panamá y sustrajo de ahí a Manuel Antonio Noriega. Desde entonces no habíamos visto una situación de esta naturaleza, y esto sucede, curiosamente, 36 años después, también fue un sábado cuando sucedió aquel asunto. Estamos aquí, seguimos en la espera de que recibamos la transmisión de la Casa Blanca del presidente Donald Trump, que va a ofrecer una conferencia de prensa. Esperemos que en unos minutos. Él está en West Palm Beach, está allá porque pues por las fiestas allá recibió el Año Nuevo, allá estuvo en Navidad, y desde allá, hasta después de lo que hemos leído, pues coordinó todo lo que sucedió esta madrugada de sábado, coordinó todo desde ahí, y bueno, muy al estilo de Donald Trump, ya ha dado o ha hablado sobre el asunto y dice que lo veía como una película todo esto. Evidentemente desde ahí, desde Mar-a-Lago, presenció toda esta ofensiva que concluyó con la captura de Nicolás Maduro y de su esposa, que fueron sacados a medianoche mientras dormían, en una acción totalmente sorpresiva, en cierto modo, a pesar del cerco que rodeaba Caracas. Esta fue una acción sorpresiva. Ahora sí que los agarraron dormidos, los sacaron de la recámara a Nicolás Maduro y a su esposa, los metieron en una aeronave militar estadounidense, y en estos momentos no estamos a ciencia ciertos dónde se encuentran, pero la versión oficial es que son llevados o fueron llevados, ya deberían de haber llegado a los Estados Unidos, y los veremos el próximo lunes, tan pronto como el lunes, en una corte federal ahí en Nueva York, donde Nicolás Maduro tiene órdenes de captura, tiene acusaciones federales por narcotráfico, por posesión de armas y varios otros asuntos, y lo ha reiterado en varias ocasiones el presidente Trump, que él está consciente y está totalmente, que él quiere que el dictador Nicolás Maduro enfrente la justicia justamente en los Estados Unidos. Y bueno, no sabemos qué está pasando, que no empieza justamente aquí la conferencia del presidente Donald Trump. Será cuestión de minutos. Las reacciones, les puedo decir que son tremendas. Hay muchísima gente. Por ejemplo, aquí en esta imagen que está usted viendo, que es directamente la transmisión de la Casa Blanca, pero desde West Palm Beach, le puedo decir que en estos momentos ya hay muchísima gente pues conectada, esperando a ver qué sucede. Gracias a todos los que están en este chat, gracias a los que están esperando. José Luis González, estoy leyendo todos sus comentarios, me interesa muchísimo saber qué es lo que dicen. Sí, feliz año para todos, dice David Velasco. ¿Y ahora qué va a decir Sheinbaum? El pueblo venezolano era lo que quería, ¿no? Miren, la reacción de la presidenta de México va a ser muy interesante. El día lunes pues será la conferencia matutina. Vamos a ver qué es lo que dice, pero evidentemente en múltiples ocasiones ha defendido al presidente Nicolás Maduro, si le podemos decir, podríamos decirle ya al expresidente Nicolás Maduro. Lo ha defendido una y mil veces. Maduro fue invitado en alguna ocasión por el presidente López Obrador a un desfile militar. O sea, el régimen de Maduro es amigo del régimen de Morena de nuestro país, hay que decirlo así como es. Es decir, la reacción de Claudia Sheinbaum evidentemente va a ser de condena. Vamos a ver qué es lo que sucede. Muchas veces se especuló sobre la posibilidad de que el gobierno de Morena le diera asilo político a Nicolás Maduro, lo cual ya no sucedió. Se sigue especulando si le va a dar asilo político a los otros militares, concretamente, pues el militar de más alto rango, más cercano a Nicolás Maduro, pues es el general Cabello, que ya salió en la televisión venezolana a condenar el hecho, a decir que se bombardearon zonas civiles. La versión de Estados Unidos es que no hubo ningún muerto. Los bombardeos fueron en bases militares venezolanas, en un puerto, concretamente y muy quirúrgicamente elegidos los puntos importantes. Por ahí también estaba yo viendo que alguno de estos bombardeos pegó justamente donde estaban enterrados los huesos se me fue, ¿cómo? Se me fue el nombre los huesos se me fue el nombre de
Chávez.
Bueno, se me fue ahorita el nombre. Bueno, los huesos del predecesor de Nicolás Maduro, Hugo Chávez, no, perdón este lapsus. Los huesos de Hugo Chávez, por ahí, pues podrían haber sufrido algún tema con este bombardeo. Seguimos aquí en espera. Las reacciones, como le digo, son tremendas, sobre todo porque ya se empiezan a hacer los análisis sobre cómo se están moviendo las piezas de ajedrez en la geopolítica internacional, y tenemos que hablar de China y tenemos que hablar de Rusia en este asunto, porque nadie quiere quedarse como el elemento débil en esto que estamos presenciando en este momento, ¿no? Ya los análisis están pues bastante interesantes de gente importante, porque pues esta intervención de Estados Unidos en Venezuela podría anunciar, según algunos analistas internacionales, pues que Rusia podría volverse un poco más agresivo con el tema de Crimea, que pudiera volverse un poco más agresiva con el tema de Ucrania, incluido Kiev. Y bueno, el otro protagonista en todo este ajedrez geopolítico evidentemente es China, que no sabemos si China se va a quedar de brazos cruzados. Entonces, pues ahí queda la idea de que China podría tomar alguna iniciativa en contra de algo que lleva anhelando ya mucho tiempo, que es hacerse de Taiwán. Esta isla que, aunque es parte de China, ya saben que hay una sola China, aunque es parte de China, es independiente y pues China ha querido hacerse de Taiwán por mucho tiempo y no lo ha podido hacer. Tal vez estas piezas, y eso es lo más probable, no se muevan de inmediato. Tal vez estas piezas pues van a empezarse a mover gradualmente, pero finalmente sucederán cambios en la geopolítica internacional. Esto que sucedió este sábado con la captura de Nicolás Maduro va a ser un detonador para el movimiento de estas fichas. Hay muchos puntos que se tienen que analizar sobre este asunto. Uno de ellos, evidentemente, que juega un papel trascendental, pues es el petróleo. El petróleo venezolano pues es una ficha estratégica en todo este asunto. Estados Unidos pues sí ha buscado tener acceso a estas reservas y bueno, sabemos que Venezuela, esto no es novedad para absolutamente nadie, Venezuela tiene las mayores reservas probadas de petróleo del mundo, y entonces controlar esto pues es un factor decisivo. ¿Para qué? Pues para la seguridad energética global. Este tema va a tener que ser analizado con lupa. Ahora, si hablamos de Rusia, el gas natural ruso también es una arma, por supuesto, porque Rusia utiliza este gas, y lo hemos visto desde que empezó la guerra, como una herramienta de influencia en toda Europa. Tiene, en ese sentido, la sartén por el mango, por supuesto. Y si Rusia finalmente consolida quedarse pues con parte de Ucrania, con Crimea, que ya hace mucho tiempo que tiene posesión de ella, pues podría controlar unas rutas muy importantes, rutas que son clave para este tránsito energético y bueno, podría tener más elementos para chantajear, si así usted quiere, chantajear al mundo. Ahora, Taiwán. Taiwán también es un punto de interés y un punto donde se van a mover fichas después de lo que acabamos de ver en este sentido, cuando hablamos de Rusia, de China, que no se quedará con los brazos cruzados. Taiwán y los microchips, ya sabe, estos microchips que hoy son pues prácticamente el oro del mundo, porque los microchips los encontramos en todas partes. Los encontramos en las computadoras, los encontramos en los teléfonos celulares. Ahora que está explotando la inteligencia artificial, no podemos entenderla sin los microchips. Y Taiwán, una isla tan pequeña en este planeta, es la que posee la mayor producción de microchips. O sea, si hablamos de los microchips, estamos hablando de el petróleo del siglo XXI o del oro del siglo XXI. Y entonces Taiwán produce, según algunos datos, el 60%, o sea, la mayor parte de estos semiconductores avanzadísimos en el mundo. Y entonces, pues ahí radica el interés de China, precisamente, de hacerse de Taiwán. Porque una invasión china, pues sería impactante a nivel mundial. ¿Por qué? Porque sí se pondría en riesgo la cadena global de suministro tecnológico, por supuesto, porque China tendría el control de todos estos semiconductores. Radica ahí el interés justamente de China por Taiwán. Ahora, ¿qué tiene que ver Taiwán en lo que acabamos de ver con Venezuela? Porque todo es como un dominó. Se cae una ficha y empiezan a caerse todas las demás. Si Estados Unidos se distrae en Venezuela, pues China va a aprovechar la oportunidad. O quizá haya una negociación underground entre Estados Unidos y China. Eso no lo sabemos. Un dato importante. El día de ayer, varios empresarios o líderes, gente importante en China, estuvo en Venezuela. Estuvieron con Nicolás Maduro platicando de algunos asuntos y no sabemos tras bambalinas de esta geopolítica internacional qué es lo que está sucediendo, pero créame, están sucediendo cosas. Bueno, todo esto pone a los mercados financieros en una tensión absoluta. Bueno, los mercados van a abrir el lunes, vamos a ver cómo. Los mercados financieros van a estar en tensión esta semana porque el petróleo y el gas siempre reaccionan con muchísima volatilidad ante una cadena de movimientos geopolíticos como el que estamos viendo en estos momentos. Entonces, imagínense ustedes nada más. O sea, ahora sí que sorpréndeme, 2026. Primero los que vivimos en México, pues nos despertamos el día 2 con un movimiento telúrico, con un sismo bastante fuerte. Y después, al día siguiente, tenemos este evento. O sea, estamos empezando el año bastante ajetreados. Porque imagínese usted, después de lo que estamos viendo en este momento, una crisis simultánea, nada más para especular lo que pudiera venir. Una crisis simultánea al mismo tiempo en Venezuela, en Ucrania, que ya la tenemos, porque a pesar de los esfuerzos que se han hecho para terminar con esta guerra que ya lleva más de 3 años, no se ha logrado. Entonces, una crisis simultánea en Venezuela, Ucrania, y luego Taiwán. Imagine usted nada más. ¿Qué pasaría? Bueno, pues esto, agárrese, porque dispararía los precios energéticos, dispararía los precios tecnológicos. O sea, cuide su celular. Imagínese nada más lo que va a costar ahora su iPhone, su computadora. O sea, una crisis simultánea dispararía estos precios y esto evidentemente genera pues inflación global. Ahora, hay que estar muy atentos sobre cómo van a empezarse a mover las alianzas en este momento. O sea, en este momento todo es especulación. Aquí estamos esperando a que salga Donald Trump desde Mar-a-Lago en su conferencia de prensa, que ya va a empezar. A ver, aquí me están llegando. Donald Trump acaba de poner en Truth Social una foto de Nicolás Maduro. Ya es la primera foto, ¿verdad? La primera foto oficial. A ver, la primera foto oficial. Se las puedo enseñar en este momento. No se ve ahí, ¿verdad? Bueno, ¿sí se ve? A ver, ¿dónde? Aquí. Miren, la primera foto oficial. O sea, ahorita estamos viendo ya a Nicolás Maduro. Y dice, déjenme ver qué dice. Dice, Nicolás Maduro en camino a Estados Unidos en el IWO Jima, que es este avión. Lo podemos ver aquí. Está con el rostro, bueno, no, con lentes, no sé si tiene los ojos vendados, tiene una botella de agua, está en pants. O sea, prácticamente como estaba dormido, pues se debe haber puesto unos pants. Es la primera foto, la que está viendo usted aquí. La primera foto de Nicolás Maduro después de ya haber sido capturado por los Estados Unidos. En Venezuela, los militares estaban pidiendo prueba de la vida de que estuviera vivo Nicolás Maduro. Estaban pidiendo pruebas de que estuviera vivo. Esta ya es la prueba que Donald Trump está dando a través de su cuenta de Truth Social. Lo que son las cosas, ¿no? Hoy en día, ¿cómo se maneja esta información? O sea, todo va a través de las redes sociales. Ahí está la prueba de que Nicolás Maduro, como dice el presidente Donald Trump, ya va en camino hacia los Estados Unidos. Es la primera fotografía que vemos de Nicolás Maduro ya en el avión norteamericano, rumbo a los Estados Unidos, concretamente a Nueva York, a enfrentar la justicia de los Estados Unidos. Es un poco extraño que no haya comenzado la rueda de prensa de la Casa Blanca. Como le repito, estamos en esperas, si apenas va despertando usted, si apenas se está dando cuenta de lo que está pasando. Pues esta madrugada, Estados Unidos bombardeaba algunas bases militares de Caracas, entra a la recámara del dictador Nicolás Maduro, capturan a Nicolás Maduro y a su esposa, que estaban dormidos en ese momento. Se ponen los pants, quiero suponer, Nicolás Maduro, como lo acabamos de ver en la fotografía, y en estos momentos está volando hacia los Estados Unidos, si no es que ya llegó. Acabamos de ver la fotografía que puso en su red social Donald Trump, en camino a los Estados Unidos a enfrentar la justicia. Esta conferencia de prensa desde Mar-a-Lago, ahí donde tiene su casa de descanso y donde se encuentra desde la Navidad y el Año Nuevo Donald Trump, ahí en West Palm Beach, en Mar-a-Lago, desde ahí presenció y coordinó toda esta captura de Nicolás Maduro, y desde ahí, bajo la página de la Casa Blanca, estamos esperando la conferencia de prensa del presidente Donald Trump, que va a dar un mensaje a la nación. Estaba programada para que comenzara a las 11 de la mañana, tiempo de Florida, que son las 10 de la mañana, tiempo del centro, tiempo de la Ciudad de México. Hasta este momento no ha comenzado esta conferencia de prensa, lo cual es pues sumamente extraño. Ya lleva un retraso de 35 minutos. No sabemos si es estrategia. No creemos que haya llegado ahí tarde Donald Trump. No. Seguramente esta tardanza es porque se están moviendo los hilos atrás de todo esto. Eso no es cosa menor. Lo que estamos viendo pues es histórico, es totalmente histórico. ¿Recuerdan ustedes la declaración aquella de Nicolás Maduro cuando de una manera muy efusiva sale a los medios de comunicación ahí en Venezuela hace unas semanas y decía: vengan por mí? Bueno, pues, oiga, no pidas lo que no quieres que suceda, porque efectivamente ya fueron por él. Y lo veíamos muy sacado de la pena ahí en las calles de Caracas, bailando, tratando de dar la impresión de que todo estaba bien, a pesar de que estaba totalmente rodeada Venezuela, a pesar de que, acuérdense, ya habían anunciado que no se deberían realizar vuelos en el cielo de Venezuela. O sea, estaba cercado tanto marítimamente como de manera aérea, o sea, en mar y en cielo, estaba rodeada Venezuela. Esto era algo inminente, era cuestión de tiempo. El reloj hacía TikTok para que sucediera lo que sucedió finalmente esta madrugada de 3 de enero del 2026, cuando finalmente las fuerzas norteamericanas deciden entrar a los Estados Unidos y hacer lo propio. Estoy leyendo el chat. Recuerden que estamos aquí en mi canal de YouTube. Gracias por todos los que están aquí escribiendo. Gracias a Luz Karina Angulo, que nos saluda. A Marte dice, hola a todos. A ver, dice, me imagino, dice Hugo Daniel, me imagino que ahora el pueblo venezolano va a sacar a toda la porquería que apoyó esta dictadura. Pues vamos a ver qué sucede. Dice, bueno, Estados Unidos ha anunciado que va a estar sumamente involucrado en quién será el nuevo presidente que guíe o que esté al frente de, pudiéramos decir, la nueva Venezuela, la Venezuela libre, después de tantos años de dictadura, desde que llegó Hugo Chávez y después fue tomada por Nicolás Maduro. ¿Quién estará al frente de la nueva Venezuela? De la Venezuela libre. Yo quisiera pensar que quien debería estar al frente de Venezuela, una opinión muy personal, pues sería quien ganó las pasadas elecciones, el señor Edmundo. Sabemos que María Corina Machado era la candidata en aquel momento, en un principio, en estas elecciones. Nicolás Maduro le impidió ser candidata y entonces María Corina Machado pues cedió esta candidatura a Edmundo González. Ahí está ya el presidente Donald Trump. Les dejo el audio para que escuchemos. Presidente Trump desde Mar-a-Lago, addressing the nation.
Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones, like the attack on Soleimani, the attack on al-Baghdadi, and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer. All perfectly executed and done. No nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly, in just a short period of time. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have. It was dark and it was deadly. But captured along with his wife, Celia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York, it's Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment If you look back to Afghanistan, or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days, they were different days. We're a respected country again, like never before. These highly trained warriors operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea, just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in a ready, what's called a ready position. But they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment was lost. We had many helicopters, many planes, many people involved in that fight. But think of that, not one piece of military equipment was lost, not one service member was, more importantly, killed. The United States military is the strongest and most fearsome military on the planet by far. With capabilities and skills our enemies can scarcely begin to imagine. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. There's no equipment like what we have. And you see that even if you just look at the boats. You know, we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills on average, 25,000 people. We knocked out 97%. And those drugs mostly come from a place called Venezuela. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela, and that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States and want to go back to their country. It's their homeland. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now, and what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. This was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that probably won't have to do. This partnership of Venezuela with the United States of America, a country that everybody wants to be involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish, will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extremely happy. They suffered. They suffered. So much was taken from them. They're not going to suffer anymore. The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, many, many Americans. Hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil. Right now, they're on a ship. They'll be heading to, ultimately, New York, and then a decision will be made, I assume, between New York and Miami or Florida. But we have people where the overwhelming evidence of their crimes will be presented in a court of law. And I've seen it. I've seen what we have. It's both horrible and breathtaking that something like this could have been allowed to take place. For many years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro remained in power and waged a ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening not only our people, but the stability of the entire region. And you all saw it. In addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of illegal drugs that inflicted untold suffering and human destruction all over the country, all over in particular the United States, Maduro sent savage and murderous gangs, including the bloodthirsty prison gang Tren de Aragua, to terrorize American communities nationwide. And he did indeed. They were in Colorado. They took over apartment complexes. They cut the fingers off people if they called police. They were brutal, but they're not so brutal now. And I just have to congratulate our military, Pete and everybody, and our National Guard, because the job that they've done, whether it's in Washington, D.C., where we have a totally safe city, where it was one of the most unsafe cities anywhere in the world, frankly, and now we have no crime in Washington, D.C. We haven't had a killing. We had the terrorist attack a few weeks ago. A little bit of a different kind of a threat, but we haven't had a killing in a long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have on average two a week in Washington, our capital. We don't have that anymore. The restaurants are opening. Everyone's happy. They're going, they're walking their daughters, they're walking their children, their wives. They walk to restaurants. Restaurants are opening all over Washington, D.C. So I want to thank the National Guard. I want to thank our military. And I want to thank law enforcement. It's been amazing. And they should do it with more cities. We're doing it, as you know, and we're doing it in Memphis, Tennessee right now, and crime is down. We've just sort of started a few weeks ago, but crime is down now 77%. And the governor of Louisiana called, great person, and he wanted us to help him, as you know, in a certain very nice part of Louisiana, and we have done that. And it was a rough section, and we have crime down. I understand it's down to almost nothing already after 2.5 weeks. New Orleans, it's down to almost nothing, and we've only been there for 2.5 weeks. Can't imagine why governors wouldn't want us to help. We also helped, as you know, in Chicago, and crime went down a little bit there. We did a very small help because we had no working ability with the governor. The governor was a disaster, and the mayor was a disaster, but it knocked down crime. But we're pulling out of there. When they need us, we'll know. You'll know. You'll be writing about it. And likewise, Los Angeles, where we saved Los Angeles early on, where the head of the police department made a statement that if the federal government didn't come in, we would have lost Los Angeles. That's long after the fires. That's when they had the riots in Los Angeles. We did a great job. Got no credit for it whatsoever, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We don't need the credit. but we'll be pulling out when they need us. They'll call, or we'll go back if we have to. We'll go back. But we did a great job in various cities. But the place that we're very proud of is Washington, D.C., because it's our nation's capital. We took it from being a crime-ridden mess to being one of the safest cities in the country. But the gangs that they sent raped, tortured, and murdered American women and children. They were in all of the cities I mentioned, Tren de Aragua. And they were sent by Maduro to terrorize our people, and now Maduro will never again be able to threaten an American citizen or anybody from Venezuela. There will no longer be threats. For years I've highlighted the stories of those innocent Americans whose lives were so heartlessly robbed by this Venezuelan terrorist organization. Really one of the worst. One of the worst, they say the worst. Americans like 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungari from Houston. Beautiful Jocelyn Nungari, what happened to her? They, as you know, they kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered by Tren de Aragua animals. They murdered Jocelyn and left her dead under the bridge. There was a bridge that will never be the same to so many people after seeing what happened. As I've said many times, the Maduro regime emptied out their prisons, sent their worst and most violent monsters into the United States to steal American lives. And they came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They came from prisons and jails. The reason I say both, they sound similar. Actually, prisons, a little bit more hostile, a little bit tougher. A mental institution isn't as tough as an insane asylum, but we got them both. They sent from their mental institutions. They sent from their jails, prisons. They were drug dealers. They were drug kingpins. They sent everybody bad into the United States, but no longer. And we have now a border where nobody gets through. In addition, Venezuela unilaterally seized and stole American oil, American assets, and American platforms, costing us billions and billions of dollars. They did this a while ago, but we never had a president that did anything about it. They took all of our property. It was our property. We built it. And we never had a president that decided to do anything about it. Instead, they fought wars that were 10,000 miles away. We built Venezuela oil industry with American talent, drive, and skill, and the socialist regime stole it from us during those previous administrations, and they stole it through force. This constituted one of the largest thefts of American property in the history of our country. Considered the largest theft of property in the history of our country. Massive oil infrastructure was taken like we were babies, and we didn't do anything about it. I would have done something about it. America will never allow foreign powers to rob our people or drive us back into and out of our own hemisphere. That's what they did. Furthermore, under the now deposed dictator Maduro, Venezuela was increasingly hosting foreign adversaries in our region and acquiring menacing offensive weapons that could threaten U.S. interests and lives. And they used those weapons last night. Potentially in league with the cartels operating along our border. All of these actions were in gross violation of the core principles of American foreign policy, dating back more than 2 centuries, and not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines, and the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot. By a real lot. They now call it the Monroe Document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen. So just in concluding, for decades, other administrations have neglected or even contributed to these growing security threats in the Western Hemisphere. Under the Trump administration, we are reasserting American power in a very powerful way in our home region. And our home region is very different than it was just a short while ago. The future will be, and we did this in my first term. We had great dominance in my first term, and we have far greater dominance right now. Everyone's coming back to us. The future will be determined by the ability to protect commerce and territory and resources that are core to national security. These are core to our national security. Just like tariffs they've made our country rich, and they've made our national security stronger than ever before. But these are the iron laws that have always determined global power. And we're going to keep it that way. We will secure our borders. We will stop the terrorists. We will crash the cartels, and we will defend our citizens against all threats, foreign and domestic. Other presidents may have lacked the courage or whatever to defend America, but I will never allow terrorists and criminals to operate with impunity against the United States. This extremely successful operation should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty or endanger American lives. Very importantly, the embargo on all Venezuelan oil remains in full effect. The American Armada remains poised in position, and the United States retains all military options until United States demands have been fully met and fully satisfied. All political and military figures in Venezuela should understand what happened to Maduro can happen to them, and it will happen to them if they aren't just fair, even to their people. The dictator and terrorist, Maduro, is finally gone, and Venezuela people are free. They're free again. It's been a long time for them, but they're free. America is a safer nation. This morning, it's a prouder nation this morning because it didn't allow this horrible person and this country that was doing very bad things to us. It didn't allow it to happen. And the Western Hemisphere is right now a much safer place to be. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank General Raisin Kane. He's a fantastic man. I've worked with a lot of generals. I worked with some I didn't like. I worked with some I didn't respect. I worked with some that just weren't good. But this guy is fantastic. I watched last night one of the most precise attacks on sovereignty. I mean, it was an attack for justice. And I'm very proud of him, and I'm very proud of our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who I'm going to ask to say a few words. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Finally, a commander-in-chief the world respects and the American people deserve. And as the President said, words can barely capture the bravery and the power and the precision of this historic operation. A massive joint military and law enforcement raid flawlessly executed by the greatest Americans our country has to offer. American warriors are second to none, the best in the world and the best of our country. What all of us witnessed last night was sheer guts and grit, gallantry, and glory of the American warrior. I'm simply humbled by such men. And I tip my hat to our chairman, Dan Raisin Kane, and all those Americans who stood watch last night. Our warriors are the elite of America, and again, President Trump has your back. No other country on planet Earth, and it's not even close, could pull this kind of operation off. And no other president has ever shown this kind of leadership, courage, and resolve, the most powerful combination the world has ever seen. As the President said, our adversaries remain on notice. America can project our will anywhere, anytime. The coordination, the stealth, the lethality, the precision, the very long arm of American justice, all on full display in the middle of the night. Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around, and he found out. President Trump is deadly serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence to our country. Deadly serious about stopping the flow of drugs and poison to our people. Deadly serious about getting back the oil that was stolen from us. And deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere. This is about the safety, security, freedom, and prosperity of the American people. This is America first. This is peace through strength. And the United States War Department is proud to help deliver it. Welcome to 2026, and under President Trump, America is back. I'd like to welcome now our chairman, Chairman Raising Cane, to give a few more details about the operation. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning. Last night, on the order of the President of the United States and in support of a request from the Department of Justice, as the President said, the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolas and Cecilia Maduro. This operation, known as Operation Absolute Resolve, was discreet, precise, and conducted during the darkest hours of January 2nd and was the culmination of months of planning and rehearsal, an operation that, frankly, only the United States military could undertake. What I'd like to do this morning is talk to you through some of the preparation and the details without compromising any of our tactics, techniques, and procedures. There is always a chance that we'll be tasked to do this type of mission again. Our interagency work began months ago and built on decades of experience of integrating complex air, ground, space, and maritime operations. While the past 2 decades have honed the skills of our special operations forces, this particular mission required every component of our joint force, with soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians working in unison with our intelligence agency partners and law enforcement teammates in an unprecedented operation. We leveraged our unmatched intelligence capabilities and our years of experience in hunting terrorists, and we could not have done this mission without the incredible work by various intelligence agencies, including the CIA, NSA, and NGA. We watched, we waited, we prepared, we remained patient and professional. This mission was meticulously planned, drawing lessons from decades of missions over the last many years, many missions over these last many years. This was an audacious operation that only the United States could do. It required the utmost of precision and integration within our joint force. And the word integration does not explain the sheer complexity of such a mission. An extraction so precise it involved more than 150 aircraft launching across the Western Hemisphere in close coordination, all coming together in time and place to layer effects for a single purpose: to get an interdiction force into downtown Caracas while maintaining the element of tactical surprise. Failure of one component of this well-oiled machine would have endangered the entire mission, and failure is never an option for America's joint force. Those in the air over Caracas last night were willing to give their lives for those on the ground and in the helicopters. Let me talk a little bit about the preparation. After months of work by our intelligence teammates to find Maduro and understand how he moved, where he lived, where he traveled, what he ate, what he wore, what were his pets, in early December, our force was set pending a series of aligned events. Key was choosing the right day to minimize the potential for civilian harm and maximize the element of surprise, and minimize the harm to the indicted personnel so, as the President said, they could be brought to justice. And as the President said earlier today, weather in Venezuela is always a factor this time of the year. And over the weeks through Christmas and New Year's, the men and women of the United States military sat ready, patiently waiting for the right triggers to be met and the president to order us into action. Last night, the weather broke just enough, clearing a path that only the most skilled aviators in the world could maneuver through. Ocean, mountain, low cloud ceilings, but when tasked with a mission, this organization does not quit. At 10:46 p.m. Eastern Time last night, the President ordered the United States military to move forward with this mission. He said to us, and we appreciate it, Mr. President, good luck and Godspeed. And those words were transmitted to the entire Joint Force. Over the course of the night, aircraft began launching from 20 different bases on land and sea across the Western Hemisphere. In total, more than 150 aircraft, bombers, fighters, intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, rotary wing were in the air last night. Thousands and thousands of hours of experience were airborne. Our youngest crew member was 20, and our oldest crew member was 49, and there's simply no match for American military might. As the night began, the helicopters took off with the extraction force, which included law enforcement officers, and began their flight into Venezuela at 100 feet above the water. As they approached Venezuelan shores, the United States began layering different effects provided by Spacecom, Cybercom, and other members of the interagency to create a pathway. Overhead, those forces were protected by aircraft from the United States Marines, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, and the Air National Guard. The force included F-22s, F-35s, F-18s, EA-18s, E-2s, B-1 bombers, and other support aircraft, as well as numerous remotely piloted drones. As the force began to approach Caracas, the Joint Air Component began dismantling and disabling the air defense systems in Venezuela, employing weapons to ensure the safe passage of the helicopters into the target area. The goal of our air component was, and always will be to protect the helicopters and the ground force and get them to the target and get them home. As the force crossed the last point of high terrain where they'd been hiding in the clutter, we assessed that we had maintained totally the element of surprise. As the helicopter force ingressed towards the objective at low level, we arrived at Maduro's compound at 1:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 2:01 a.m. Caracas local time, and the apprehension force descended into Maduro's compound and moved with speed, precision, and discipline towards their objective, and isolated the area to ensure the safety and security of the ground force while apprehending the indicted persons. On arrival into the target area, the helicopters came under fire, and they replied with that fire with overwhelming force in self-defense. One of our aircraft was hit but remained flyable, and as the President said earlier today, all of our aircraft came home, and that aircraft remained flyable during the rest of the mission. As the operation unfolded at the compound, our air and ground intelligence teams provided real-time updates to the ground force, ensuring those forces could safely navigate the complex environment without unnecessary risk. The force remained protected by overhead tactical aviation. Maduro and his wife, both indicted, gave up and were taken into custody by the Department of Justice, assisted by our incredible U.S. military with professionalism and precision, with no loss of U.S. life. After securing the indicted persons, the force began to prep for departure. Helicopters were called in to exfiltrate the extraction force, while fighter aircraft and remotely piloted aircraft provided overhead coverage and suppressive fire. There were multiple self-defense engagements as the force began to withdraw out of Venezuela. The force successfully exfiltrated and returned to their afloat launch bases, and the force was over the water at 3:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with indicted persons on board. And both Maduro and his wife were embarked aboard the USS Iwo Jima. In closing, what we've witnessed today is a powerful demonstration of America's joint force. We think, we develop, we train, we rehearse, we debrief, we rehearse again and again, not to get it right, but to ensure that we cannot get it wrong. Our jobs are to integrate combat power so when the order comes, we can deliver overwhelming force at the time and the place of our choosing against any foe anywhere in the world. I am immensely proud today of our joint force and filled with gratitude to represent them here today. There is simply no mission too difficult for these incredible professionals and the families that stand by them and support them. As we stand here this morning, our forces remain in the region at a high state of readiness, prepared to project power, defend themselves, and our interests in the region. This operation is a testament to the dedication and unwavering commitment to justice and our resolve to hold accountable those who threaten peace and stability. In closing, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the brave men and women who executed this mission. Their courage and tireless commitment to our nation are what makes us strong. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you, Mr. President.
Well, I don't have much to add to what you've heard now, other than the following points. Nicolas Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the United States. He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying it. The first Trump administration, the Biden administration, the second Trump administration, none of those three recognized him. He's not recognized by the European Union and multiple countries around the world. He is a fugitive of American justice with a $50 million reward, which I guess we saved $50 million. And
Make sure.
yeah, exactly. But
Don't let anybody claim it. Nobody deserves it but us.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when he tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it. I can tell you, I've watched this process now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When I get there, we're going to do this. We're going to take. This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States, and the president addressed it. There's a president of peace, by the way. I told you what I just said earlier. This guy had multiple opportunities to find his way somewhere else and figure out another. He could have been living somewhere else right now very happy, but instead he wanted to play big boy. And so now, he's got other sets of problems on his hands. And but I think the message here should be for the world. Look, the president doesn't go out looking for people to pick fights with. He's not generally wants to get along with everybody. We'll talk and meet with anybody, but don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well. And so I hope that I guess that lesson was learned last night, and we hope it'll be instructive moving forward.
Is that a message for Cuba, Mr. President?
Please. Well, we're going to be running it with a group, and we're going to make sure it's run properly. We're going to rebuild the oil infrastructure, which will cost billions of dollars. It'll be paid for by the oil companies directly. They will be reimbursed for what they're doing, but that's going to be paid. And we're going to get the oil flowing the way it should be. As you know, it was just a minor flow. It was actually a minor flow for what they have. But we're going to run it properly, and we're going to make sure the people of Venezuela are taken care of. We're going to make sure the people that were forced out of Venezuela by this thug are also taken care of.
President, does The U.S. running the country mean that U.S. troops will be on the ground? How will that work?
Well, you know, they always say boots on the ground. Oh, so we're not afraid of boots on the ground if we have to have. We had boots on the ground last night at a very high level, actually. We're not afraid of it. We don't mind saying it. But we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain. This is a very dangerous attack. This is an attack that could have gone very, very badly. Could have gone very badly. We could have lost a lot of people last night. We could have lost a lot of dignity. We could have lost a lot of equipment. The equipment is less important, but we could have lost a lot. And we're going to make sure that this is proper. We're there now. We're ready to go again if we have to. We're going to run the country right. It's going to be run very judiciously, very fairly. It's going to make a lot of money. We're going to give money to the people. We're going to reimburse people that were taken advantage of. We're going to take care of everybody. It's very important. We couldn't let them get away with it. You know, they stole our oil. We built that whole industry there, and they just took it over like we were nothing. And we had a president that decided not to do anything about it. So we did something about it. We're late, but we did something about it. Yeah, please.
Mechanism by which you're going to run the country? Are you going to designate a U.S. official to coordinate?
Yes, it's all being done right now. We're designating people. We're talking to people. We're designating various people, and we're going to let you know who those people are.
Would run Venezuela?
Well, it's largely going to be for a period of time. The people that are standing right behind me, we're going to be running it. We're going to be bringing it back. It's a dead. You know, I talk about a dead country. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're a country doing better than any country anywhere in the world. And it required leadership. Venezuela has a lot of bad people in there, a lot of bad people that shouldn't be leading. We're not going to take a chance that one of those people take over for Maduro. So you can look at, and others, we have fantastic people, including people in the military. So we're going to have a group of people running it until such time as it can be put back on track, make a lot of money for the people, and give people a great way of life, and also reimbursement for people in our country that were forced out of Venezuela.
Rubio would be.
You said earlier today that you weren't going to back Machado to come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview. And then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela, or how do you foresee the relationship
going?
I
understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. He just had a conversation with her, and she's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Very simple.
Mr. President, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, a couple weeks ago, he said he's got to watch his ass. And today, he said he's not concerned about anything happening to him in the aftermath of this operation. So, just what your message is about that?
Well, he has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And, yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine. They're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his ass.
Rubio,
Mr. President, did you notify any members of Congress in advance?
Marco, do you want to talk about that? Because you were involved in it.
Sure. We call members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was a trigger-based mission in which conditions had to be met night after night. We watched and monitored that for a number of days. So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days. But it's largely a law enforcement function. Remember, at the end of the day, at its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice, and the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job. Now, there are broader policy implications here, but it's just not the kind of mission that you can pre-notify because it endangers the mission.
Plus, if I could add one thing to that, Congress has a tendency to leak. This would not be good. If they leaked, General, I think it would have been maybe a very different result. But I have to say, they knew we were coming at some point, you know. We had a lot of ships out there. They sort of knew we were coming. We went through. But Congress will leak, and we don't want leakers.
people to watch this all play out live. What was Maduro doing when the U.S. forces entered what I assume would be his home? And also, was there any point where the U.S. was considering if Maduro pushed back or resisted killing Maduro?
It could have happened. It could have happened. He was trying to get into a safe place. You know what a safe place is? All steel. and he wasn't able to make it to the door because our guys were so fast. They went through the opposition so fast, and there was a lot of opposition. You know, people were wondering, do we get them by surprise? Sort of surprised, but they were waiting for something. It was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of gunfire. You saw some of it today. But he was trying to get to a safe place, which wasn't safe because we would have had the door blown up in about 47 seconds, they say on average, regardless of how thick the steel was. It was a very thick door. It was a very heavy door, but he was unable to get to that door. He made it to the door. He was unable to close it. Go ahead, finish.
To be in the time being right now, do you know his exact
Well,
whereabouts?
eventually, ultimately, in the near future, he's going to be brought to New York.
And where is he going to be held? Where is he going to be held in New York? Do you know?
That's going to be up to the officials that do these things.
Mr. President, the U.S. has something of a mixed track record of ousting dictators without necessarily a plan for what comes afterwards.
Not with
Did
me.
that weigh on your decision?
Well, that's when we had different presidents, but with me, that's not true. With me, we've had a perfect track record of winning. We win a lot, and we win. If you look at Soleimani, you look at al-Baghdadi, you look at the Midnight Hammer. Midnight Hammer was incredible. Right now, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. We have essentially peace in the Middle East because of that. If we weren't successful with Midnight Hammer, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. So, with me, you've had a lot of victory. You've had only victories. You've had no losses. Yeah.
How long do you expect the U.S. to run Venezuela, and how soon do you want Venezuelan people to hold elections?
So I'd like to do it quickly, but it takes a period of time. You know, we're rebuilding. We have to rebuild their whole infrastructure. The infrastructure is rotted. It's actually very dangerous. It's blow-up territory. Oil is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing to take out of the ground. It can kill a lot of people. It has killed a lot of people doing just that. The infrastructure is old. It's rotted. Much of it is stuff that we put there 25 years ago, and we're going to be replacing it. And we're going to take a lot of money out so that we can take care of the country. Yeah.
Are you saying that Secretary Rubio and
Mr. President, China, Russia, and Iran have interests in Venezuela. How does this operation affect your relationships with them when it comes to the oil and drugs?
In terms of China and Russia, Russia, when we get things straightened out. But in terms of other countries that want oil, we're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We're not going to say we're not going to give it. In other words, we'll be selling oil probably in much larger doses because they couldn't produce very much because their infrastructure was so bad. So we'll be selling large amounts of oil to other countries, many of whom are using it now, but I would say many more will come.
Are you saying, Mr. President, are you saying that, Mr. President, are you saying that,
Mr. President, thank you. What is your message to the people of Venezuela today? Of course, the civilian population specifically, they have a lot of questions. What is your message to the people of Venezuela?
That you're going to have peace, justice. You're going to have some of the riches that you should have had for a long period of time. It was stolen from you. But you're going to have peace, and you're going to have safety. You're going to have justice. You're going to have a country. You're going to have a real country. You're going to have potentially a great country. You know, if you go back 20 years, maybe even a little longer ago, that was a great country, and they destroyed it. Remember I said that if we lose this election, the United States will be Venezuela on steroids. That's what would have happened. Had we lost the election, the 2024 election, we suffered so badly. When you look at the border from 2020, what they did, what Joe Biden administration did to our country should never be forgotten. But if we had to go through another year of that, we would be exactly where Venezuela was in terms. I used to say, if they win, we're going to be Venezuela on steroids, and that's what would have happened.
President, thank you. Are you saying that Secretary Hegseth and Rubio are going to be running Venezuela, and will you be sending in U.S. military
troops to provide? They're going to be a team that's working with the people of Venezuela to make sure that we have Venezuela right. Because for us to just leave, who's going to take over? I mean, there is nobody to take over. You have a vice president who's been appointed by Maduro, and right now she's the vice president, and she's, I guess, the president. She was sworn in as president just a little while ago. She had a long conversation with Marco, and she said, we'll do whatever you need. I think she was quite gracious, but she really doesn't have a choice. We're going to have this done right. We're not going to just do this with Maduro, then leave like everybody else, leave and say, let it go to hell. If we just left, it has zero chance of ever coming back. We'll run it properly. We'll run it professionally. We'll have the greatest oil companies in the world go in and invest billions and billions of dollars and take out money, use that money in Venezuela. And the biggest beneficiary are going to be the people of Venezuela. And also, I can't stress this strongly enough, the people that got thrown out of Venezuela that are now in the United States, and frankly, some want to stay and some probably want to go back, yeah.
In the country, and were any of the detained Americans?
Well, right now they're very
arrested?
protected because nobody's going to mess with us. They're very protected. The people of, and we let them know that you better not touch one of them.
And are you concerned that bad elements of the Maduro regime will remain in place?
Well, we know who they are. We're on them, and they're acting much differently now than they would have acted 2 days ago. Okay, wait, behind you, please.
Mr. President, why is running a country in South America America first?
Well, I think it is because we want to surround ourselves with good neighbors. We want to surround ourselves with stability. We want to surround ourselves with energy. We have tremendous energy in that country. It's very important that we protect it. We need that for ourselves. We need that for the world. And we want to make sure we can protect it. Yes, sir. Please, go ahead.
Yeah, is there a message here for Cuba and Diaz-Canel?
Well, Cuba is an interesting case. Cuba is, not doing very well right now. That system has not been a very good one for Cuba. The people there have suffered for many, many years. And I think Cuba is going to be something we'll end up talking about because Cuba is a failing nation right now, very badly failing nation. And we want to help the people. It's very similar in the sense that we want to help the people in Cuba, but we want to also help the people that were forced out of Cuba and living in this country. Do you want to say something about that, Marco, please?
Well, I mean, I just gave you a statement a few minutes ago about, when the president speaks, you should take him seriously. So suffice it to say, Cuba is a disaster. It's run by incompetent, senile men, and in some cases, not senile, but incompetent nonetheless. It has no economy. It's in total collapse. And by the way, they were, all of the guards that helped protect Maduro, this is well known, their whole spy agency, all that were full of Cubans. I mean, it's amazing. This poor island took over Venezuela in some cases. One of the biggest problems the Venezuelans have is they have to declare independence from Cuba that tried to basically colonize it from a security standpoint. So, yeah, look, if I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned, at least a little bit. Well, the president already announced a week ago that anything that's sanctioned, it's sanctioned oil, it's not going to be allowed to get there. So that's a pre-existing.
The answer is yes. Yes. No, we haven't. No, we haven't.
Mr. President. Mr. President, on Monday.
Oh, I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect.
Mr. President, is it possible that the U.S. ends up administrating Venezuela for years?
Well, it won't cost us anything because the money coming out of the ground is very substantial, so it's not going to cost us anything. We will. Well, we want safety there. We want to be surrounded by countries that aren't housing all of our enemies all over the world. That was happening, and you don't want to have that. But we're going to be rebuilding, and we're not spending money. The oil companies are going to go in. They're going to spend money. We're going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago. A lot of money is coming out of the ground. We're going to get reimbursed for all of that. We're going to get reimbursed for everything that we spend. So it's going to be a very important. This is a very big evening that took place last night. We have to be surrounded by safe, secure countries, and we also have to have energy. Very important. We have to have energy that's real energy, not where they're getting 4% and 5% of the energy out of the ground. You take a look. It was such a disaster. So what's going to happen with Venezuela, I think, over the next period of a year, is going to be a great thing, and the people of Venezuela will be the biggest beneficiaries.
Going to send in U.S. military.
Mr. President, thank you. What did you last speak to Maduro about when you spoke? And is the
Well,
US
I don't want to get
war
into
with
the
Venezuela?
conversations, but I did have conversations with him, and I said, you got to surrender. And I actually thought he was pretty close to doing so, but now he wished he did, yeah.
You said that Maduro is responsible for drug trafficking. You recently pardoned the former president of Honduras who was convicted of many drug trafficking. Can you explain how these two situations are different? And would you ever pardon Maduro?
I endorsed, as you know, the winning president, the man who won in Honduras. I endorsed the man who won in Chile. I endorsed the man who won in Argentina. And we are doing very well with that whole group. What the man that I pardoned was, if you could equate it to us, he was treated like the Biden administration treated a man named Trump. That didn't work out too well for them. This was a man who was persecuted very unfairly. He was the head of the country. He was persecuted very unfairly. And there are a number of them. And we felt that it was a very unfair situation that happened to him. He's also a party member of the man who won. So obviously the people liked what I did. And one of the reasons that was done is because of the fact that the party in power felt very strongly that that man was treated very badly. I studied it very quickly, and then I studied it in great detail. I went to a lot of the people standing behind me, and they felt that that man was persecuted and treated very badly. That's why I gave him a pardon.
You referenced boots on the ground earlier. Can you just sort of button this up? Do you envision the U.S. military having a presence in Venezuela as the U.S. runs that
Well,
country?
no, we're going to have a presence in Venezuela as it pertains to oil, because we have to have, we're sending our expertise in. So you may need something, not very much. But no, we're going to be taking out a tremendous amount of wealth out of the ground. And that wealth is going to the people of Venezuela and people from outside of Venezuela that used to be in Venezuela. And it goes also to the United States of America in the form of reimbursement for the damages caused us by that country. So I want to thank you all very much. Thank you. Do you have one? Yes, please. You were so nice before. I'm going to give you the final question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr.
Unless it's a
President.
bad question, in
It's
which
about
case I'll
Putin.
go one word. It's about who?
It's about Putin, if you want.
About Putin. Well, that's
Okay.
always nice
You had
to
a
talk
phone-
about Putin.
You had a phone call with him
Yeah.
on Monday. Did he talk at all about Maduro? Did y'all talk about this?
No, we didn't.
And
We
then-
never spoke about Maduro.
Are you mad at him right now? I mean, there's this
I'm not
intelligence.
thrilled with Putin. I'm not thrilled with Putin. He's killing too many people. I thought that would be so. I settled 8 1/4 war. You know what the 1/4 was? Thailand and Cambodia. I did it again. They broke out, and I did it in about 5 hours, and I settled it. I'm giving myself 1/4, so I'm up to now 8 1/4. In other words, I settled the war, but then they broke out. They had a pretty bad breakout over the last 4 days. I got them to go back to peace, so I only give 1/4. I thought the easiest one would be, one of the easier ones would be Russia, Ukraine. It's not, and they both have done some pretty bad things. And look, that's Biden's war. That's not my war. But I want to stop the lives. Did you see where last month, 30,000, it was 27,000 the month before. 30,000, mostly soldiers, were killed this last month. 30,000. I want to stop that. You know, I got NATO to pay 5% instead of the 2% that they weren't paying. They weren't paying 2, now they pay 5. And we send them a lot of munitions. We send them a lot of things, missiles and various other things, a lot. And they pay. The United States is not losing money. We're probably making money on that. It's the last thing I care about. I just want to stop all those people. We're losing 25, 30,000 human beings. They come from 2 places that are very far away. But if I can stop, because it's something I've been pretty good at doing, deals, I guess. It's all a deal. Life is a big deal. But if I can stop that war and stop 30,000 young people, in addition to the fact that people are being killed in Kiev, people are being killed in other cities throughout, a much smaller number, but they're being killed, viciously killed. So I'm not happy about it. I thought that would be something that would get solved. We have Mr. Witkoff here. I think that we're making progress, but that's a war that should have never happened. If I were president, it would have never happened. Putin says it. Everybody says it. If I were president, that would have never happened. But I inherited that war. That was Joe Biden, Zelensky, and Putin. I came into the situation, and it's a mess. And I will say this. I watched an operation last night that was so precise, that was so brilliant. I mean, it was incredible. If we had our people, like this general and our people involved, that war would not have gone on very long, that I can tell you. That war, to use an old term, that war has become a bloodbath, and we want it to get stopped. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bueno, pues acabamos de escuchar esta larga conferencia de prensa. A ver, aquí cómo puedo poner mi imagen para cambiar, para verlos todos ustedes. Acaba de acabar la conferencia de prensa del presidente Donald Trump. Larga conferencia de prensa, prácticamente duró 1 hora. Estuvo acompañado de Marco Rubio, el secretario. Marco Rubio es el secretario de Seguridad Nacional, estuvo el secretario de la Defensa, Pete Hegseth, básicamente, habló también el militar a cargo de toda esta operación, y básicamente lo importante de esta conferencia de prensa es que el presidente Trump ha asegurado que Estados Unidos va a estar a cargo en este momento de lo que suceda en Venezuela, es decir, va a estar a cargo de esta transición pacífica y va a estar involucrado en quien gobierne, podríamos decir temporalmente, a Venezuela. Prácticamente está diciendo que Estados Unidos va a estar ahí para reconstruir la infraestructura que dice que ha quedado totalmente deshecha, y que la justificación de que Estados Unidos esté a cargo de esta transición es para evitar que vuelvan a llegar a posiciones de poder gente del chavismo. Prácticamente eso es lo importante de esta conferencia de prensa. Hay ya muchas reacciones por parte también del gobierno de México, que condena esta situación. Vemos aquí el comunicado de... A ver, se está escuchando aquí la conferencia de prensa. Déjeme nada más le cambio. Vamos a quitar el audio de la conferencia de prensa. A ver, quitamos esto. Bueno, les decía, el gobierno de México ha lanzado un comunicado condenando la intervención militar en Venezuela. La reacción de mucha gente es, en Twitter estoy viendo, dice: no te equivoques, no hablas a nombre de México, hablas desde el fondo de la corrupción y tus lealtades. Estamos viendo también mucha gente, por otro lado, celebrando, muchos millones de venezolanos que están celebrando el fin del comunismo y de la dictadura ahí en Venezuela. Veo también a muchos de extrema izquierda en México diciendo, ve aquí por ejemplo a un individuo llamado David Porras en X diciendo: se metieron con Venezuela, se acaban de meter con toda América Latina, resiste Venezuela. No habrá muchos que piensen igual que él, definitivamente están tratando de involucrar a México en un asunto que no es nuestro, en un asunto que nos puede traer muchos problemas con los Estados Unidos. Veo también a Gerardo Fernández Noroña, que ya pronto, o sea, no se tardó en salir a sus redes sociales defendiendo la dictadura de sus compas, defendiendo la dictadura de Nicolás Maduro. Y ya, bueno, aquí también, ya saben, Luis Cárdenas MX dice: ya veremos si le dan ganas de ir a Disney pronto. Ya sabemos que muchos de Morena ya no podrán pisar Estados Unidos. Y algo importante que dijo el presidente Donald Trump, dijo que lo que sucedió en Venezuela sirva de ejemplo para que todos aquellos que quieran inmiscuirse y meter narcotráfico y delincuencia en los Estados Unidos van a correr la misma suerte. Es decir, a quien le quede el saco que se lo ponga. Hay un dicho que dice: cuando ves las barbas de tu vecino cortar, pon las tuyas a remojar. Eso tendría que estar haciendo el gobierno de México en este momento. Muchas reacciones sobre lo que dijo el presidente Donald Trump, y quiero acabar nada más esta transmisión con lo que a mí me parece que es el headline, lo importante de esta conferencia de prensa del presidente Donald Trump, cuando dice que Estados Unidos va a gobernar Venezuela hasta que, llegando el momento, se pueda hacer una transición segura. Dice: queremos paz, libertad y justicia, es lo que dijo el presidente Donald Trump en esta conferencia de prensa después de este histórico evento donde cayó finalmente la dictadura venezolana, cayó Maduro, cayó este dictador, cayó el chavismo en Venezuela. Hoy es un día histórico, 3 de enero del 2026, muchísimas fichas empezarán a mover, y bueno, hemos sido testigos de un evento importantísimo en la historia de nuestro planeta. Ya con esto termino esta transmisión. Muchísimas gracias a todos los que estuvieron conmigo. Estoy transmitiendo a través del canal de YouTube Adriana Braniff, al cual les pido que le den like, que compartan, que se suscriban para que cada vez lleguemos a más. Y pues muchísimas gracias por su presencia. Soy Adriana Braniff, me despido de ustedes después de esta transmisión especial. Muy buenos días.